But if global warming policies have added to the danger of blackouts like this, Treasurer Jim Chalmers hasn't learned the lesson. Even today, he was promising much more of the same.
And we share the objective of a future increasingly powered by cleaner and cheaper and increasingly more renewable energy into the future.
Now, joining me to explain just what happened is electricity engineer Ben Beattie. He is the host of the Baseload podcast, which talks about our energy system. Ben Beattie, thank you so much for joining us. What did cause 500,000 Victorians to lose their electricity?
Oh, good day, Andrew. Well, you have some transmission lines blown down in a critical part of the system. And as a result, you have some generators and a big voltage disturbance across the grid. So that's going to be part of it. And some of that we don't know for sure which generators tripped and why, although we do know that one of the big coal units, power stations in Latrobe Valley went off. There's also a lot of minor damage to the lower voltage systems throughout the state. So in that region where there's been that strong wind, you'll see crews going out there very busily trying to get the place back on. But yeah, when you have a disturbance of this kind in the electricity network, it can wreak havoc.
But was it made worse by getting rid of coal-fired power stations like Hazelwood? Because the cost of trying to get the power to make good the losses was enormous.
Yeah, Hazelwood was what is unkindly referred to as an old clunker. But in situations like this where you have a big impact on the network, it's very difficult to predict what's going to stay on and stay off. Now, I suggest that in the wrap up to this, some of these generators that we're looking at that have gone off, and we'll talk about the wind turbines in a moment, but Loy Yang A is probably going to get a letter soon saying, please explain, because the generators beside it did not go off and they continued to maintain electricity. Now, one of the difficulties with transmission lines down, especially key 500 kilovolt transmission lines that were damaged, is that suddenly you don't have anywhere to transmit all the electricity from all your power stations. So it's an added complication and an added factor on top of the situation.
The wind power went down by 2/3 over the afternoon, just to make it worse. And of course, solar vanished completely when the sun went down, as you'd expect. That just made it all worse. Are these then the kinds of blackouts we risk seeing more of over the next few years as we get rid of coal without having enough baseload power to replace it?
Yeah, reliability is a real concern, especially with weather-dependent generators like wind and solar. If you look at some of the data from yesterday, and there's any number of visualizations around, you can see that wind was actually ramping down from midday in Victoria and dropped, like you said, a whole lot of megawatts off, and solar was not doing much at all. So the reliability of a system is called into question when you have 500,000 nearly people off the network.
And do you expect more of the same?
I think with transmission lines in particular, they can be very difficult to protect. So they're always exposed to some kind of risk, whether it's fire, strong wind, even impact, say from traffic. When you have a transmission line like this that's so key to the network taken down, and then you have wider damage, I don't think there's much you can actually do about that. You could build stronger transmission towers, of course. That would be something to look at. And structurally, I'm an electrical engineer, so structural side of it is not my forte. But when you have more transmission lines, you tend to create more risk and more cost. Now, there's certainly more cost in more transmission lines, but will they save the network? Well, if they were propped up by old coal clunkers, then maybe, but not if they're propped up by wind turbines and solar panels, which are going to turn off anyway.
Ben Beattie, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.